It's a little bit slow, but believe it or not, it's better here than South Florida. South Florida gets really good, but in general, I would say we get more waves here than there. So let's see, in 2006, my wife and I decided we were going to sell our house in South Florida in Delray. We wanted to capitalize on the real estate market. And I ended up moving up to Tallahassee of all places, and I feared I was never going to get to surf again. I was so bummed and just didn't know. I thought I'd never ever get to surf, but it turns out that I had a good friend over in St. Augustine. I would go over to St. Augustine, I would surf there, and then out of a whim just decided to come over to the Gulf Coast and couldn't believe the waves I caught. So I was like, wow, okay. And I spent 3 years in Tallahassee, and I had gotten my real estate license and just started looking for places around here. And then eventually just decided we loved it over here. So yeah, decided to move here. Wow, I've got quite a few. I pretty much surfed every speck of sand from Miami to Sebastian Inlet. That might be a bit of an exaggeration, but growing up in South Florida, you do a lot of highway surfing. So especially Boca Raton, we deal with a lot of wind chop, and it's not the best waves in the world. So we would be on the road almost every weekend trying to find waves somewhere. But my favorite surf spots, I would probably say in Boca, we loved 40th Street, Spanish River Boulevard. I really like that spot. On a good proper north swell, the outside sandbar turns on and it really gets pretty good. Comparable really to anywhere in the world. Its main problem is consistency. It just does not do that all that often. If you look at South Florida and the Bahamas, there's basically about a 15-degree swell window for Boca. And if you go further south, like Miami, it's about a 5-degree swell window. So it's really pretty narrow, and they really do not get much waves at all down there. But when it gets good, Miami is probably one of the best spots in all of Florida. It's definitely the heaviest, I'd say, with Miami and maybe Mexico Beach being the two heaviest spots. If we maybe don't count, say, Pump House or something like that, which is a rare bird in itself. So, and I've never really caught that left, so I couldn't even really comment on that one. But I have caught Miami really good.
Is there a left at South Beach too? Is it kind of peak both ways?
Oh yeah, it's an A-frame. It's a lot like this wave, actually. It's like Panama City Beach. I'd say they're kind of sister waves. Miami's got a little bit more power because there is no outside sandbar at all. So all the juice comes right in on the inside, and it'll just frame up nice and throw, and it's a good wave. But other than that, my go-to spot was always Reef Road. That was by far my favorite, and Reef Road is it's a A-plus high quality wave. I would say the first time I surfed there, ooh, goodness, was probably somewhere around 1982 or 3. And I remember vividly, if you all remember Scott McCrannles, he was one of our local pros, and he had just gotten back from Hawaii, and he was in tune. And I mean, he was charging Waimea Bay and all the big stuff. So we had a proper north swell. It was a good solid 8 to 10 foot. And I just remember I was paddling out, and I see him drop into a big one, and he just pulled in, and I was ducking under the wave, and he was just encased for like 20 yards at least in the tube. And I just remember thinking, wow, like that's the way it's done right there, So just absolutely loved it. Other spots, we surfed everywhere. Stewart Beach, I love Stewart Rocks, Juno Beach, Sebastian Inlet was probably the go-to spot. Everywhere would be flat, Sebastian would be head high. So we would go there all the time. We would just, and this was before surf reports. So this was before 976 surf even. And we would just on a whim go up there, and it would be, chest to head high and pretty fun. So I know you probably hear this from a lot of the old timers, but for some reason, the waves in South Florida we had a lot more waves the late 70s to early 80s, I would say. Especially with 82 through 84 being the peak, we would average about 10 north swells a winter, where as time went on, it got less and less. So by the end of the 80s, we were only getting about 2 north swells a winter. And we were all like, what's going on? We couldn't figure it out. But standout swells, I remember a few really good ones. In 1984, we had real proper north swells on about every holiday. So I remember Halloween we had a swell, Thanksgiving we had a swell, Christmas we had a swell, and New Year's we had a swell. And they were all phenomenal. Outside, double overhead, just reeling in crystal blue water. That's some of the beauty of South Florida, and no wetsuits. Well, my go-to spot is the county pier. I love the county pier. City pier, of course. The park, we really only have those 3 spots. When Mexico Beach is good, I like it there. And of course, we've all got our not-so-secret spot that I won't say on camera, but everybody that's local here knows that it's not so secret, but it is. I'd have to say Reef Road and this particular spot are my 2 favorites in all of Florida. They're both phenomenal, world-class waves. You could compare them to anywhere in the world on their day. And we're lucky enough to have one. It's a rare treat, and one of the reasons why I moved here, for sure. I'm trying to remember, but I believe it was my good friend Tate Danford took me over, and I'm pretty sure. Some standout swells for that, definitely Hurricane Ike. He and I had caught it, and we got there, let's see, we left the state park probably around 4 in the morning, and the tide was so high from the hurricane pushing in, and when we got over there, it was still dark out, and we're looking, and Tate's like, how big do you think that is? And I'm like, it looks pretty big. I don't exactly know the size, but it was definitely sizable. So we both jump in the water, and it's still blackout. And we paddle out to the lineup, and all we could see were big walls of whitewater. And as the sun started to peek over, we started to see the true size of it. And that morning was the peak of the swell. And we both got caught inside on one that we both ditched our boards and swam under it. And when we came up, we were both like, yeah, that was 15 foot. That was solid, proper 15 foot. So yeah, this wave, it'll hold it. It's unreal. But other than that, I mean, goodness, you and I, we've been over there several times. I wish it broke more. It's definitely one of my favorite waves in all of Florida. It's phenomenal. Yeah. So. Oh, cool. Yeah, my dad was always very talented, and he actually taught me to write my name. I remember I was actually like 3 years old, and he got me to write my name. And then I started drawing at around age 5 or 6. And I took painting lessons around age 10, I want to say. And so I always had art in my life. And my mom signed me up for painting lessons, and it was acrylics at the time. These are all oils, but just always enjoyed it, loved it. And it was a way to kind of record where I traveled and things. So I love having this record of where I've been, and it's all personal memories. I have painted places I haven't been, and it just doesn't have the same feel. When you're there and you're actually surfing, you get to know a spot and become used to that spot. And I think that's what really shines through in the paintings, is when you get to spend time there, really know it, see all its different moods, the right tide, the right swell direction. There's so much to surfing. And that's the thing I think that makes surfing so special, is the fact that it's not like you go to a baseball diamond and it's the same old field or whatever. It's so hard to score really good waves, even in places like Hawaii. you have so many variables. You've got winds and tides, and the swell angle's got to be just right for any specific spot. So there's a lot to count in, and when we do actually score it, it's just we're over the moon, and it's just the best. That's why we all love surfing so much. Well, Puerto Rico's easy. That's basically our Hawaii. I love the proximity to us, and it's so similar to Hawaii in the fact that it's same latitude, same vegetation, same watercolor. It's all reef. I love reef. That's my favorite. Point breaks are great too, but if I had my choice, I'd take reef waves. And pretty much the whole island is a reef. We call it Puerto Rifo. So I love Surfers Beach. Middles is probably my favorite, but I like the whole Maria's setup as well. And Hobos is fun, and there's all kinds of great waves there. So love Puerto Rico. But Hawaii has got my heart. The aloha spirit, and the people are so friendly and so nice. And yeah, you do see some heavy things go down, but all in all, they're very welcoming and just great human beings. And so, and it's just something about Hawaii. You land on the airplane, you get out of the airplane, and it smells like flowers. And it's just like, wow, we're here. And you really get to live the life in Hawaii. But also just, I love our neck of the woods too. Like for us, Central America would be our Indonesia. And, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Costa Rica, Mexico, they all have world-class waves, South Pacific, and it's all big south swells that come in 15-second period and up. So you get waves this long, which are incredible, and just absolutely love it. Oh, wow. I've got a lot. I'd say, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Mexico, mainland Mexico and Baja. I've been to both. Surf spots, I would say Honolulu Bay. This right here, you can see this is Pavones. So I got the chance to surf that this year, actually, and just scored it unreal, and it was so good. It pretty much pumped the entire time I was there. So world-class wave. And being a goofy foot, I think it's probably top 1 or 2 maybe for me. I'm still working on it. It's not finished.
Unfinished.
You can see it's on the easel.
Gotcha.
So I'll go ahead and step away so you can take a look at it a little bit better. But at first what I do is I block it all in, and then start refining it, and it takes a long time. I've been working on it for over a month or so, but and this one is a triptych. It's 3 because the wave is so long. You need 3 canvases, and believe it or not, this is only about 1/3 of the wave. This wave would have to go on for another 3 more or 6 more canvases. Believe it or not, right here is the corner. This is called the point right out there, and it goes and goes and goes. I measured it on Google Earth. It is actually 3,000 feet long of a point break. So truly one of God's wonders, and just an amazing setup. Absolutely. Honolulu Bay definitely is up there. Very high quality wave. All of Kauai, I love Kauai. I won't name any of those spots except for maybe Honolulu Bay, but there are all kinds of great waves in Kauai. So you can go there, and pretty much every little nook and cranny has got some sort of a reef or a point, or and it's really good. Yeah, they don't take too kindly to naming these spots, but so I'm not going to name them, but yeah, it is an outer island, and just such a beautiful paradise. Absolutely loved it. I think I went there about 4 years ago, 2018 I think was the date, my wife and I, and That particular wave is a really good one. This is a different part of the same area. And this one I took a little bit of liberty on the cliffs and everything, painting it, so it's not exactly like this. It's not a complete accurate representation of the spot, but that one is, minus the flowers. I added those in, but the wave is actually comes from a photo. So yeah. Let's see, Jamie O'Brien, yeah. So I can name this spot because this is a very well-known spot, which you'll probably all notice, but this is Honolulu. This is a particular day as well. Probably one of my favorite waves in the world. It's such a high quality wave. It's got power, it's Hawaiian power, but it's very makeable. And even though it looks intimidating, it's user-friendly. And it's just so perfect that, even as a backsider, you can get some pretty large tubes. But I saw, let's see, Jamie O'Brien was out here on this particular day, and they were filming, they do like a podcast, and I forget the guy's name, but he's got a whole entourage of people, and they had a canoe and soft tops and boogie boards and skim boards and everything all out in the lineup. And he would catch a wave on the canoe and jump off the canoe onto a soft top, ride the soft top all the way back around and hop back into the canoe and then go back out into the lineup. So it was pretty funny to watch. He called that one dropping the kids off at the bus stop, but yeah, and it was pretty comical because there's a goat trail up over here that you got to take to get back up. And they were trying to get that canoe back up there, and they were having a fun time doing that. So, and then this one, we'll end with this one. This is Kauai. That's Honolulu Bay. This is a pretty well-known break, so I don't feel too bad exposing the name of this one, but I won't say any others. But so where Maui is very blocked and Oahu is blocked by Kauai, Kauai isn't blocked by anybody, so they could just get pounded all the time. One of the best places ever. Went to mainland Mexico right out of college. Two of my best friends and I, we actually drove my Pathfinder from South Florida to mainland Mexico, Pasquales, as a matter of fact, 36 hours. So that was quite a ride, but we made it. We made it safe there and back, obviously, but Pasquales is definitely a life-threatening wave, not for the faint of heart. I was in my young 20s at the time, and you think you're invincible, and all three of us came this close to drowning. That wave is definitely like pipeline-esque, a little bit bigger even. It will hold triple to quadruple overhead barrels, and it's very thick, very, very powerful wave. But we enjoyed it. We went there a couple years back to back and made that same drive, that long drive. So it was fun. So, surfing in itself is a great motivator. Like I said, we're all so blessed to have this sport in our life. I know it's been a blessing for me. And really for me, I gave my heart to Jesus in 2014. So I just have a whole new outlook on life as well. And I just feel so blessed to know my Lord and Savior. But also for surfing, it's just made me really appreciate each and every day that I have on earth, because we're not guaranteed any days at all. And I've had a few near-death experiences, and surfing, as a matter of fact. So just take every day as a blessing, and just give all the glory to God, and just try to spread the love in the heart of Jesus. I had one in Barbados, and I had one at Pasquales, Mexico. Pasquales is probably, the heaviest wave I've ever surfed. To give you like an idea, I heard a quote from Bruce Irons. He said that Pasquale's is the heaviest wave he had ever surfed. And that's coming from Bruce Irons. So, it's definitely, it's crazy. And like I said, we drove all the way out there from Florida. And, the first couple days we were there, it was overhead, but manageable. But then a really large swell hit. It was solid double overhead or bigger. And this particular beach break will hold any size. There's no limit to the size that the wave can get there. One of the best documentations of it that I know is Brian Connolly's "My Eyes Won't Dry." If you get your hands on that, get it. It's amazing footage, and this was pre-GoPro. So he had the whole big setup on the back of his board, or handheld it in the tube, and you will see just how big it can get. But my near-death experience came when I was actually paddling out. I'm sitting there, and so it breaks real close to the beach, real close, closer even than I think, say, the outside sandbar in Panama City Beach. That's how close in it breaks. There is no outside sandbar, and there's a super deep trench out from there. So any 15 to 18 second period swell that comes in will just magnify from, and as the swell's approaching, it'll go dark and you'll say, oh, that's about head high. But when it hits the sandbar and it jacks, it goes to triple overhead. And so you're sitting there, and I was paddling back out from another wave, and I look and I see this thing starting to peak up, and I'm like, uh-oh, and I hesitate for just a second. And I realize I got to start paddling. And as the wave draws on the sandbar, so say here comes the wave, the sandbar dips like this. And so it actually sucks you into the pit. And when the thing lip launches, it'll lip launch anywhere from 10 to 15 feet out. I mean, think Chopu. It's the same basic concept. It's an abrupt angle on the sandbar that's just like at a 45 degree. So any, I believe it's an 18-second swell travels 1,000 feet deep. So that 1,000 foot of swell energy, as it compresses on a 45 degree angle, not only shoots the wave high, but also thicken out. So when it does hit the breaking point, here I am, and here comes the lip, and I'm duck diving a 7.4, okay? And I can only put this thing so deep, right? I'm pushing for my whole life on this thing. And as I'm going, the lip launches, and I'm realizing I'm pretty much doomed. And it squared me on the back of my neck, took the board out of my hands instantly, slammed the board in the side of my face. I was black and blue all on this side of my face. Felt like I got hit by Mike Tyson. And I was pretty much, my saving grace was it took the board out of my hands and it pinned me on the sandbar. So that was actually good news, because on the sandbar, you know where up is up and down is down. And so I could just push off the sandbar and get up, and I was good. So yeah,
What'd you do after that?
I went in and cleaned up some tears. But it was, it was a harrowing experience. And my other two friends, my one friend, he really came close. He was puking salt water on the beach. There's a lot of rip tides there, and some of the worst rips I've ever seen. And he got sucked out way out to sea. And so he was trying to get back in. And as all surfers know, you can't paddle against a rip, especially there. There's so much water moving. It's like a river. But as he came around, a wave came behind him and caught him, unknown to him. And we saw him in on the beach just throwing up and everything. And people have died there. So it's one of those waves. It's like Pipeline, but I'd say even heavier. I've been to Pipeline, and Pipeline will get to a certain size, and then it'll start breaking on the second and third reef. Whereas Pasquale's Mexico has no limit to the size. It'll just get taller and wider the bigger the swell gets. So, and my second situation was Barbados. Love Barbados. That's another wave I didn't mention, but that was actually my first real surf trip. I loved Barbados. My dad was a pilot, captain for Pan Am for many years, and he came home one day and he goes, pack your bags, we're going surfing. And I'm like, where are we going? And he goes, it's a surprise. So while we're in the air, I'm like, come on, Dad, where are we going? He goes, it's a place called Barbados. And I'm like, okay. Didn't know of it or where it was, and it's in the Caribbean. And this was pre-Todd Holland Surf Magazine, before they even discovered Barbados. I want to say it was 83 or 4, somewhere around in there. And so we land, and it's the old school where you land on the tarmac and they bring the ladder out, and you got to walk down, and the guy's getting the boards out of the airplane, and he goes, oh, Bachiba, Bachiba. And we didn't know what he was saying. What he was saying was Bathsheba. And that was the place to go surfing. And so we get a map, and we didn't have a clue. And my dad's like, all right, there's Bathsheba right there. We'll go there. So we drive into Bathsheba, and we pull right up to Soup Bowl, which is one of the best waves in the world. I mean, it's a phenomenal wave. And it was double overhead, spitting tubes, and I couldn't believe my eyes, and there was nobody out. And I'm like, there are 2 guys underneath the mushroom rock with boards. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, there's surfboards. So I go and I start talking to them, and I say, is this even a break? Can we surf here? And they're like, oh yeah, this is Soup Bowls. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, we'll show you how to paddle out, where to go. And so they showed me how to walk on the reef, how to get out there without getting 1,000 urchins in my feet. And super nice. I mean, one Rasta and one white guy, and they're just so friendly and nice. And they just showed me the ropes, and it was big, it was heavy. So my near-death experience was Soup Bowl sits here, and then there's another way right beside it called Parlors. And Parlors holds any size wave at all. And it was big. It was about 25 foot. And I think I was maybe 14 years old or something like that. And coming from South Florida, I had never seen waves like this ever, I was blown away. And we're all sitting out in the lineup, and this huge set comes in, and all the Rastas are like, paddle to the horizon, man. And so I start paddling, and they all come up to the whitewater, big, huge ball of whitewater coming right at us, and they all stand on their board and jump off and go under and dive deep. I'm like, oh, that's what I'm doing. And so I did it, but I didn't dive deep enough, and the whitewater just steamrolled me and took me and pushed me super deep, but I never touched the reef. And I was under there for so long. I had my last gasp of air, and I really didn't think I was going to come up. I don't really even know how I came up, but I think God had more plans for me. So luckily, praise God, I'm alive, but it was definitely an experience. So, but if you get a chance, Barbados is another really great place to go surfing. Like I said, I got to go to Barbados about 7 or 8 times in the early to the whole 80s, as a matter of fact. And that painting is really pulled back and away from it. But when you look at the mushroom rock, that mushroom rock sits about 15 to 20 feet high. Still to this day, the biggest waves I've ever seen was Soup Bowl. That's bigger than Pasquale's. That's bigger than Hawaii. It will hold a very, very large wave, and it'll be a barrel. Where, like, say, Pipeline will max out in that 12 to 15 foot range, this wave will get 20, 25 foot plus. And it's every bit as hollow as Backdoor Pipeline. The only thing that plagues Barbados is the winds. They get a lot of side shore, onshore wind. But when the true north swell comes down, and the winds are right, it's a phenomenal wave. This one is Playa Rosada, Nicaragua. And this is actually from the place that we were staying at, and it was such a beautiful, perfect setup. It's like one of those ones that you draw on your notebooks in school. You couldn't ask for a better setup ever. This is a tiny little crescent beach, and the wave is not that long. It's only maybe 50, 70 yards at the most, but it's such a good little setup. The good thing about Nicaragua, it's almost always offshore. So I think they average 300 days of offshore winds a year, which I think they got the record actually out of anywhere on the planet. They are the luckiest because Lake Nicaragua sits very close to this location, and it just sucks all the winds offshore, and it's always perfectly groomed, and they get deep period groundswell, so they have a lot of great days. I didn't see it go onshore once the whole time I've been there, so it's a great wave, and I just love the spot. And other good areas around here are Papoya, which is just to the north, and Colorado is just to the south. So just in this little zone alone, you've got 3 pretty much world-class waves right there. And Popoyo actually has one of the biggest big wave spots in all of Central America that will hold like real large waves, something that I won't surf. So if you've got the guts, you can go for it, but those days for me are gone. So. Oh, we got a lot of great people here. Yeah, there's so many good surfers here, talented surfers. Just to name a few, I mean, there's so many, but, Warren Smith is a local pro, phenomenally talented. Tate Danford, one of my good friends, he's been surfing for a long time as well, and he's a ripper. Love to hear from him. All the old crew as well. There's a rich surfing history over here that I got to get to know. We've got a lot of the older guys, Marshall McCarthy, who I want to say is almost pushing 70 or something crazy, and still surfing well, which is amazing. So that's inspiration to me. Rhett Graham, these are all my closest friends. Rhett's a phenomenal surfer. He just recently went to Indonesia and scored beautiful waves. All of the Gormans are great surfers. Yourself. Vince Brody is one of my best friends here. Another ripper. So many. Justin and Karen Buxton. I know I'm leaving out so many people. There's so many good surfers, but I'd love to hear from them all, and just kind of get to know all their stories as well, and the surfing history here in Panama City Beach, because I'm a late arriver to the area. I moved here in 2000, Tallahassee in 2006, but here in 2010. So. I know they've all pioneered these spots, back in the 60s and maybe 50s. I'm not too sure, but I'm sure it must have been a glorious sight back there and then with nobody out and just them. So lucky them. Well, I wouldn't say maybe life-threatening, but Hurricane Dean was phenomenal here. And I had just moved up here. I forget what year it was, and I've got some photos somewhere, but I've got a photo where I could hold it up next to Pipeline and you'd be like, it looks like a smaller version of it. It's that good. And to give you an idea, Hurricane Dean was a 200-mile-per-hour hurricane that went directly due west from Cuba straight over to Cozumel on a direct path west at 2 miles an hour. So it took 4 days to cross the short distance of the Yucatan. And it sent, that's a 200 mile per hour hurricane. So it sent pumping swell. And it's rare when the outside breaks really good at the state park, but there were A-frames coming in and just unloading, and I got tossed out into the flats on about 3 or 4 in a row. Like, wow, like this place has the juice, you know? And I got to meet Corey Lopez. He comes over here to surf here as well. And he was saying he thinks Panama City Beach is the heaviest wave, not only in Florida, but pretty much the whole East Coast, you know? I know there's some pretty heavy breaks, but that says something, you know? Because he caught it one time out there, and it was proper. And I want to say it was the same year or swell.
In Wilma, I know he got it really good in Wilma.
Yeah, and he was quoted in like Surfer Magazine or something as saying this. So, you know, I know we've talked about it, and he's like, yeah, I was blown away, you know. It was like Hawaii, you know. So it's pretty amazing. You'd think the Gulf could get waves that good, but it does. We've been in a slump. Let's be real. This is our worst year since I've been here. We had a phenomenal spring. We surfed so many good swells. And then summer hit and it went flat. And we only had a couple swells, no real hurricane swells of any kind this year. And it's kind of trending that same way for fall. But luckily, just the other day, Tuesday, I want to say 2 days ago, they were predicting waves and nothing hit, you know. All day long, it was literally knee high. And we all thought it was going to pick up, and I finally had to go home and get the longboard and came back, and luckily I kept my fish with me. So for all you youngsters, keep your boards together because you never know, especially around here. It'll surprise you. So Ford and I and Andy Barnhart were all out, and it was just the 3 of us, and it was literally knee high and barely longboardable at that. And both Ford and Andy had to leave. And so I hate to say this, but as it happens around here, as soon as they went in, a waist high set came in, and then a stomach high, and then a chest high. So I ran in, I grabbed the fish, and luckily Ford got to get back out there, and Tate Danford came out, and Les is another great surfer who came out. And it was just us. It caught everybody by surprise, and it was only 2 hours before dark. So that's the way it is around here. You've got to be Johnny on the spot. You got to have your boards ready, the whole quiver, and you could get lucky. And we did. And there's so many days I can count where Surfline won't even be predicting waves. And luckily, I live like a block away from the county pier, so I'll go check it all the time. And it'll pick up out of the blue. I'll have my board on me. I'll go out there. I'll surf alone for 2 hours, chest high, little nugget peeling waves, crystal blue, green, emerald green, this beautiful watercolor we have here, and offshore little swells. And I'll be giggling and just nobody even knows about it. I'll be the only guy out for 2-3 hours straight. And then all of a sudden it'll drop and you leave and you're like, did that even really happen? Yeah, so here's Panama City Beach. This is the old city pier. I kind of added these lights in there. I don't know why I did it, but I did it. But this is an actual swell. And this came from a photo. So that shows kind of the power and how good it can get here. I want to say this was sometime in, my date says 08, so it was sometime around there. I'm not exactly sure when. And this, you know, the piers have gone through their phases. The city pier used to be the best, but now I think it's the county pier. But this particular day was, you know, just like it looks. It was barreling. We were all getting tubed, and it was super fun. So really loved it. Since then, they've built a new pier, but it still gets phenomenal on its day. I think the west side is my favorite side of both the county and the city, especially on a southwest. Southwest will come in and they'll just peak up perfect, and it gets really good. The other little painting right there, that's just a shot of the rocks on a clean little swell. You know, that'll be like a chest high day. And that's one of the rare days that the water was actually blue. We don't really get much blue water around here. It's more like that emerald green color. But that particular day, if we get a swell out of the Yucatan, which we call like a sneaker swell, it will bring some blue water our direction. So that was that particular day. And we all love the rocks when it gets like that. It's a fun wave, and it just it peels pretty good, and there's a barrel section on the inside, and it's super fun. So love it. Here is our not so secret spot. So I'll put this up here. And again, I'm not going to tell you where, but all you who do know where that is. And that was Hurricane Cristobal. So the only thing missing out of there is about 75 surfers, but
Might have been more. Yeah.
I do remember, I think it was Chris Overman got a sequence shot of me getting dropped in on. And one of the shots, I go backwards head over heels over the guy's wake, and I was breakdancing backwards on my back. So that one kind of stands out. But no, the whole day was great. I think, I was either with Tate or Rhett. We always go together and surfed all day. I think Cristobal lasted a couple days actually. So it was a good one.
Now, did you take the picture that this is based on, or did you snap a couple of photos?
Yeah, exactly. So normally what I do is I'll take several photos. So like this is an actual wave, but then I will get this rock formation somewhere else and then kind of superimpose it to get the composition for the painting. And then the cloud formation happened at some point in the day, but maybe not with this particular wave and those particular rocks. So I kind of use a little artistic license here and there, but overall, this was an actual day that happened. So, I think the wave was about 6 to 8 foot on the face. So pretty good swell. We all had a good time. And of course, this will be the east side. My favorite is the west side, but the east side gets just as good. I think, Ford, your favorite is the east side because you're a regular footer, and I'm usually getting tossed out into the flats while you're getting barreled. So it does have a left as well, but it's predominantly a right, but it's an A-frame, and there'll be peaks up and down the beach. But this one was more about the sunset and all that. And this is actually not a specific day. This is just kind of me having fun painting. The sunset was a particular day, but we've definitely seen it like that, just peeking up and peeling. So that's the county pier, and that's probably my favorite wave here, besides our not so secret spot. I used to be a professional artist. I used to paint murals on walls. I have quite a bit of paintings. I'm thinking about maybe having a showing, unless some locals contact me first, I guess. I know a bunch of people want them, but I have a hard time letting go because they're all so personal. I really don't want to get rid of the Pavones painting and maybe the Honolulu Bay, but I need to let go. So contact me in the future. I'll let you know. Not exactly sure yet, but eventually I'll probably put them up for sale.